It was a rainy Friday evening when Alina reluctantly agreed to a blind date her best friend arranged. She sat at a small cafe near the corner of Rosewood Street, nervously tapping her fingers on the wooden table. Alina had just come out of a messy breakup a few months earlier, and the last thing she wanted was another disappointment. But her friend insisted that she meet someone special, someone kind, humble, and different from the arrogant men she usually dated. Alina sighed as she glanced at her phone again. It was 7:05 p.m. He was 5 minutes late. Just as she was about to stand up and leave, the door opened, and a tall young man walked in, drenched from the rain but smiling warmly. His clothes were plain, a faded gray hoodie, slightly torn jeans, and worn-out sneakers. His hair was wet, and he clearly hadn't bothered to make a grand impression. Alina's heart sank a little. She had hoped for someone a bit more put together. But when their eyes met, his smile disarmed her. "Hi, Alina," he asked gently. She nodded, forcing a polite smile. "I'm Daniel," he said, extending his hand. They sat down, and what began as an awkward conversation slowly turned into something surprisingly comfortable. Daniel had a calm, genuine way of speaking. He listened carefully, laughed softly, and asked thoughtful questions. He didn't boast or try to impress her. Instead, he shared stories about simple things, volunteering at a shelter, fixing up old bicycles for kids, and his love for old music. Alina found herself opening up more than she expected. For the first time in months, she wasn't pretending to be strong, she was simply being herself. But deep inside, she couldn't ignore a lingering thought: he seemed too simple. He mentioned working odd jobs and living with a roommate to save money. She admired his honesty but worried if their worlds were too different. She came from a well-off family and was used to a certain lifestyle. As their first date ended, Daniel walked her to her car under the rain, holding his hoodie over her head to keep her dry. That small, thoughtful gesture stayed in her mind long after she drove away. Days turned into weeks, and their blind date unexpectedly blossomed into something deeper. They started meeting often, exploring small cafes, late-night walks, and charity events Daniel introduced her to. Alina began seeing life through his eyes: simple, kind, and meaningful. She started volunteering too, and it made her feel alive in a way fancy dinners never did. Still, part of her remained cautious. Her parents had strict expectations, and she knew they would never approve of someone poor. One evening, her fears became real. Her mother discovered that Alina had been seeing Daniel and immediately criticized him. "You deserve better than some struggling boy," she snapped. "He can't offer you a stable future." Alina tried to defend him, but her mother's words echoed in her head for days. Torn between her feelings and family pressure, Alina decided to confront Daniel. They met at their favorite riverside spot. She hesitated before speaking. "Daniel, I need to be honest," she whispered. "My family, they don't approve. They think we're not compatible." Daniel stayed quiet, his eyes searching hers. "And what do you think?" he asked softly. Alina's voice trembled. "I don't know. I care about you, but I'm scared." Daniel looked down for a moment, then smiled faintly. "I understand. You don't have to explain. I've always known this might happen." For days after that, they didn't speak. Alina felt lost. She missed him terribly but didn't know how to bridge the gap between love and expectations. What she didn't know was that Daniel had been facing his own secret battle all along. He wasn't actually poor. He was the CEO of a rising tech company, operating under a different name. He had chosen to keep his identity hidden to find someone who loved him for who he was, not for his wealth. Daniel's backstory was complicated. Years earlier, he had inherited his father's business but decided to build his own legacy quietly. He disguised himself as an ordinary man to escape fake friendships and opportunistic relationships. Alina's kindness had touched him, but her hesitation had confirmed his deepest fear: maybe love wasn't immune to social pressure. A few weeks later, fate intervened. Alina's company organized a tech event to collaborate with a major investor. She attended with her team, unaware of who the special guest would be. As the doors opened, Daniel walked in wearing a perfectly tailored black suit. His presence commanded attention. People whispered his name: Daniel Carter, CEO of Carter Technologies. Alina froze. Her heart pounded as she watched the man she thought she knew transform before her eyes. After the event, Daniel found her standing quietly on the balcony. "You look shocked," he said softly. Alina turned to him, her eyes filled with confusion and hurt. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked. He sighed. "Because I needed to know if you'd care for me without the money. I've been burned before, Alina. I wanted something real." She stepped closer, tears forming. "I did care. I still do. But I was scared." He gently took her hand. "So was I." There was a long pause as they looked at each other, not as a poor man and a rich girl, but simply as two people who had fallen in love despite their fears. From that day on, their relationship changed. Alina stood up to her family, telling them that she would follow her heart, not their expectations. Daniel, now open about his identity, slowly introduced her to his world, but they both promised never to lose the simplicity that had brought them together. Their journey wasn't without challenges: public scrutiny, business pressures, and family disagreements, but they faced them together, hand in hand. Alina learned that true love isn't about wealth or appearances. It's about finding someone who sees the real you, even when you're hiding.